11 feet. People have traveled ever since they first appeared on the earth. In primitive times they did not travel for pleasure but to find new places where their herds could feed, or to escape from hostile neighbors, or to find more favorable climates. They traveled on foot. Their journeys were long, tiring, and often dangerous. They protected themselves with simple weapons, such as wooden sticks or stone clubs, and by lighting fires at night and, above all, by keeping together. Being intelligent and creative, they soon discovered easier ways of traveling. They rode on the backs of their domesticated animals. They hollowed out tree trunks and, by using bits of wood as paddles, were able to travel across water. Later they traveled, not from necessity, but for the joy and excitement of seeing and experiencing new things. This is still the main reason why we travel today. Traveling, of course, has now become a highly organized business. There are cars and splendid highways, express trains, huge ships and jet airplanes, and all of them provide us with comforts and security. This sounds wonderful, but there are difficulties. If you want to go abroad, you need a passport and visa, tickets, luggage, and 101 other things. If you lose any of them, your journey may be ruined. As for myself, I prefer doing my traveling from an armchair. I like imagining all those journeys that, despite human creativeness, one has never made and will never make. I like to think, for example, that I have arrived in the world by stork. I like to travel faster than time and have a look at the year 2020, or go back into the past and talk to famous people. I also like to travel like a shell across ocean floors where I can explore the wrecks of ships and see curious fish that people never have seen. 12. There are many reasons for nations to declare an official language. Many developing nations have so many languages spoken within their borders that they must pick one to be the official language to avoid dealing with 5, 10, or more languages on an official level. Some countries declare an indigenous language to be official in order to preserve the language's heritage. A world language such as English or French is often chosen as the official language of a developing country, even though it may not be the native language of any of the people in that country. Making a world language official in a country makes it easier for that country to participate in the world economy. However, there are some people who fear that making a world language like English an official language can have serious effects, both politically and socially. On the political side, they claim that making English the official language sets a precedent of placing English above all other languages. This opens the door for laws abolishing bilingual ballots, which is likely to prevent citizens who are not comfortable with English from participating in the political process. On the social side, opponents of official English argue that making English the official language degrades all non-English languages and gives people the feeling that their prejudices are justified. 13. As an English woman married to an American man, I have found people here more well-mannered in many ways than in England. Whenever we phone my mother-in-law, she thanks us. "You're so good to call." I found this charming, and decided I should be more careful about thanking my family. So the next time my mother phoned I said, warmly, "It's so nice of you to call." There was a surprised silence, and then she said, "Well, I'm your mother, aren't I?" My sister later told me that my mother had found my thanks very odd, as if she were an acquaintance. I have also found Americans more graceful at giving and accepting compliments. Like most mothers, I receive a lot of compliments about my son. "He's so tall. He's so cute. He's so bright." I used to be embarrassed by these, but I have learned to smile and say thank you. It seems ungracious to deny the compliment. When my husband receives a compliment, he usually replies, "You're very kind to say so," which I think is a graceful response. It compliments the other person's good manners without seeming conceited. Sometimes it is hard to change the way you speak, especially in the day-to-day exchanges we take for granted. When I buy something at a shop in England, the assistant and I thank each other excessively. I hand her the item I am buying, saying, "Thank you." She takes it and says, "Thank you." She tells me the price, I hand her the money, and we both say, "Thank you." She hands me my change and the receipt. I say, "Thank you." Finally, she hands me the item in a bag and we both say a final, "Thank you." I know all these thanks are unnecessary, but they make us both feel comfortable. In New York, this kind of exchange takes place in silence. The sales assistant may even be talking to someone else. Sometimes when I say, "Thank you," the assistant will say, as if she is doing me a favor. Of course, New York is not typical of the U.S. Smaller communities still maintain the small rituals which have become lost in the big city. And I have heard that in the South, where they pride themselves on their good manners, shoppers can have half-hour conversations about the items in a shopping basket. 14 feet. The more we learn about how the brain functions, the more we come to realize that the brain is not a logical computer. In his book How the Mind Works, Steven Pinker relates human brains with computers, saying computers are serial, doing one thing at a time. Brains are parallel, doing millions of things at once. Computers are fast, brains are slow. Computer parts are reliable, brain parts are noisy. Computers have a limited number of connections, brains have trillions. Computers are assembled according to a blueprint, brains must assemble themselves. This does not mean that computers are superior to the human brain. No, there are things the human brain can do that computers cannot do. We humans are comfortable solving ill-posed problems, while a computer will freeze when faced with such a problem. What is an ill-posed problem? To illustrate, let's use a mathematical example. If I were to ask you what the product of 4 times 6 was, you would say it is 24. This is a clearly posed problem. It gives you 2 numbers and asks you to solve for one unknown number. You have enough information to solve the problem easily, and you would be very confident that there was only one right answer. Both you and a computer could solve this problem equally well. But what if I asked you to tell me that 24 is the product of what? You could answer that 24 is the product of 4 times 6, 10. That would be correct. 11. But it would also be correct to say that 24 is the product of 3 times 8, 2 times 12, 1 times 24, 0.5 times 48, and on and on. This is an example of an ill-posed problem, in which you are given only one number and asked to solve for 2 unknowns. Thus you find that there are many possible alternative answers, and you have no way of determining which of the many possible answers is the best. If you were walking in the woods, and suddenly the path split into 2 different roads, which one would you choose? The one covered with grass that few people had taken, or the cleared one that many others had already walked down? Anyone who has read the poet, Robert Frost, probably recognizes this situation from one of his most famous poems, The Road Not Taken. After carefully considering both roads, the speaker of the poem chooses the grassy one, or the one less traveled by. Then he says that this choice has made all the difference. Most American school children are taught this poem, often with a lesson that's actually simpler than the poem itself. The lesson goes something like this: we can have an ordinary life by making the same choices others make, or we can have a rich, more satisfying life by taking risks and choosing to be different. Or as the poem says, taking the less traveled road can make all the difference. To make the difference is an expression that always has a positive meaning in English, whether you're talking about something big or small. If a man tells his wife, for example, that marrying her has made all the difference, he's saying that he's very happy he married her. Or in the case of something small, You might say that using honey instead of sugar in a cake recipe makes the difference. In other words, the honey is what makes the cake taste so good. In Frost's poem, of course. Saying that the less traveled road has made all the difference suggests that the speaker has made the right choice. I suppose this poem expresses part of the American dream. That is, the idea that if you have the courage to be different and to follow your own path, life will be more rewarding. It's fairly common for teachers or parents to tell children, if you believe in yourself, you can do anything. Become a doctor, a successful musician, or even the President of the United States. It's up to you. 16 recent Halloween, my 5-year-old son entered a pumpkin decorating contest at his school. He proudly took his entry to his school. It was a wild combination of carvings, paint and feathers he had constructed himself. We placed it among the other creative pumpkins, which is a snowman, and even a bubblegum-blowing pumpkin wearing a baseball cap. I thought that the judges were going to have a tough time choosing a winner. They must have thought the same thing, because when we returned to the school that evening, we discovered all the pumpkins were awarded the same black and gold ribbon. My son, eagerly looking to see if his entry had won, kept asking me, which pumpkin won? Where's the winner? What could I say? Well, it looks like everyone won. Look, you got a ribbon, son. Kids are smart. Yeah, but who won? He asked. Could sense his disappointment and my own. Why should you have a contest if you're not going to pick a winner? I understand that the school was trying to convey that everyone had done great job. But I worry that a different message was sent. That losing is a hardship no one should face. I've noticed this trend a lot lately. It's as if we adults believe our children are too weak to handle defeat. But without a winner, a game or contest loses its excitement. It's part of human nature to be competitive. A competitive spirit is key to our success as adults. Why shouldn't we foster it in our children? I'm not suggesting we make our children compete against each other in all aspects of life. What I want to say is that healthy rivalries can teach our kids a lot about life. Kids can endure failure. My son understood that he might not win the pumpkin decorating contest. The disappointment for him was that nobody won. The following morning he asked, "Mummy, who really won the contest?" They didn't pick a winner, I explained again. Well, I think the snowman won, he said with a nod. And then he was satisfied.